Good morning. Parliament is resumed. I ask the Minister for Tourism and Ports to grace us with prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech Thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundation for the glory of Thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Blessed our sovereign King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of Parliament, the Leader of Opposition, Ministers of Cabinet, ex officio members, members of Parliament, the Chief Justice, and the members of the Judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for Thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make His face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of His countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading by the Honorable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
I have apologies for late arrival from the Honorable Deputy Governor, who will join us later.
Government business, bills. Second reading, continuation of debate. Appropriation Financial Years 2024 and 2025 Bill 2023.
When we adjourned last evening, the Minister for Sustainability and Climate Resiliency had just completed her contribution. Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? The Honourable Member from Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Mr. Speaker, I rise to offer my contribution to the throne speech, policy statement, and budget address, which were delivered on December 8th in this honorable Parliament. I take this opportunity to thank Her Excellency, the Governor, for her delivery of the throne speech as she represented His Majesty, King Charles III. Also, congratulations are in order to you, Sir Alden, as the newly elected Speaker. And I take this opportunity to welcome our new Premier, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, my colleague from Cayman Brac East. And I give credit to the government for working quickly to finalize and bring the budget that we, as the Speaker said yesterday, will be home for Christmas. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to address a few things in my contribution today. The first would be the tourism budget, as it provides 25% of our country's income. And Mr. Speaker, we all know our country does not export natural resources, gold, silver, bauxite, other products to gain foreign income from outside our borders. However, Mr. Speaker, foreign income is added to our economy when tourism visitors spend their dollars on our shore. Inward investment. Mr. Speaker, our tourism industry is one of the drivers of our economy, and it is divided by air arrivals and cruise arrivals when reviewing the tourism statistics. And I'd like to provide some comments starting on the stayover arrivals, and with your permission, Mr. Speaker, quote from some information supplied by the Cayman Island Tourism Association in December 1st, the Cayman Compass article, Tourism Industry Remains Hopeful. Would you like to see this?
Honorable member from West Bay, Cayman Brac West, and Little Cayman. Are you proposing to lay this on the table of the House or just to quote from it?
Mr. Speaker, I am going to quote about 6 lines. If you'd like me to lay it, I'm prepared to.
Yeah, once you quote it, you can lay it. Although all of this information is already within the public realm, so it's simply a report from which newspaper? Which newspaper is it?
Compass.
From the Compass, yeah. So it's already in the public realm.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would say that this information, most of this that was in this article, was very well delivered by our tourism minister yesterday when he spoke. So there's nothing new that's going to come out of this other than the positioning of what was said by the Tourism Association. The numbers which we released Wednesday showed a slight dip from the 21,580 arrivals recorded in October last year. October 2023 ended with 20,568. Every month except October improved over the corresponding month 2022 and was pegged as having hit 86% of the 2019 statistics, surpassing the Department of Tourism's projection of 70%. Cayman Islands Tourism Association President Troy Laycock, speaking on Wednesday's episode, The Rush Hour, acknowledged that October numbers were lower than expected. It's good to see that we're continuing to stay ahead of the 70% target that the Ministry of Tourism and the Department of Tourism had set. We in the industry definitely wanted more than 70%. Our expectation was more. We've staffed up for more, and I think numbers for October were a little soft. We saw across the industry, September was a little bit stronger than last year. Mr. Speaker, on the second page, he's quoted, I quote, "We've been able to increase the prices, whether it's hotel rooms, whether it's water sports operations, charters. I think businesses are being recalibrated rather than just simply saying, I want to get back to the same volume that I had in 2019. It's about where's my revenue, where's my cost base, where's my profitability. So I think everybody going through a recalculation, we shouldn't really focus on getting back to 500,000 and think the job is done. It's really not that simple. the Department of Tourism in recent statements said there was an increase in the length of stay, which is good. Mr. Speaker, it's a very good article. Very good positioning for the Cayman Islands. Mr. Speaker, I want to note what the president of CITA said. He said, we in the industry definitely wanted more than 70%. We staffed up for more. With more rooms coming online in 2024, success cannot be managed or measured by comparing air arrivals for 2019. More rooms should bring more income. Inflation should bring more income. These must bring more people. And we must make sure we focus on profitability for the tourism businesses and industry partners. And I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to thank the minister. In his delivery yesterday, it was well done. He acknowledged the success of 2019, for which I was the minister responsible in 2019 for, as he said, the highest numbers we've ever had in the tourism industry. And our government was the government of the day. Mr. Speaker, yes, the team that I had then, that he has now, was led by Chief Officer Strandbaden and the Director of Tourism, Rosa Harris. And I say hats off to the minister for keeping them intact and to following and allowing them to do what they do well. Mr. Speaker, I want to take a minute to talk about the relationships between tourism ministers. When I became tourism minister for the 8 years, the tourism minister before me, the Honorable Makiba Bush, had started an initiative for a hospitality school. And I didn't stop the initiative. I worked to improve the initiative and bring it. The first time they brought a graduating class, I picked up the phone and I called the Honorable Makiba Bush and invited him. And he came and he looked at what he had started and the success it was having. I say that to give credit to the now tourism minister, because we have a good relationship. If I call, he answers the phone. If he can't answer then, he calls back. And vice versa. If he calls me, if he comes to Cayman Brac, he says, I'm coming over, invites me to what he's doing. If he has some thoughts, we chat, we talk, enjoy the relationship. That's how tourism ministers are supposed to be, because what's good for each one of us is good for the country. 25 to 30% of the income of this country is dependent on the policies that the tourism minister and ministry and government today bring. So I was the first one in this house that acknowledged and gave him credit, tourism minister today, for his Caribbean tourism initiative and chairmanship, rightfully so. Because, as he said, we are acknowledged as regional players, and doesn't matter the name that's there, Cayman Islands are represented. So I take the time this morning to say that we're not worried about 520,000 arrivals. That number will never be right again, because more rooms are being built. Inflation is changing the prices, and the percentages of arrivals will increase. It's only benchmarking what has been done now, taking us over the COVID-relating year and showing that we're moving, investment is coming, and the outline of we want to continue to drive tourism forward and to move it forward, short term, medium term, and long term. Mr. Speaker, as the President said, our goal going forward must be being bigger and attracting more tourists than we did in 2019, and we'll get there. We must concentrate our attention and improve the length of stay. We must improve and offer reasons for the average daily spend to increase. We must concentrate and improve the offerings of our rooms, our meals, our transportation, and our activities. And I note in the budget, Mr. Speaker, a large amount for Turtle Farm in 2 years. As was explained, that is because of a capital investment in the plant itself. So if we're going to make the anchor of tourism in West Bay successful, those initiatives are the types of things that we have to keep moving forward. That's all. Mr. Speaker, we must get safety under control. You will not have people coming to an environment that is not safe, especially when our tourism is pointed at 3-generational tourism. What I mean by that? I mean high net worth individuals who bring their grandchildren, their children, and themselves. And I will tell you that when the grandparents are here, anything the grandchildren want, they get, without a doubt. We have to work and make sure that we get our transportation problem, our infrastructure under control. We have to get to a point where it doesn't feel like a burden for a hotel guest to go on the road and visit local attractions. So if you have an environment that they don't want to take their families or children in because they don't feel safe, you know what they're going to do? They're going to build a wall around the hotel, and they're never going to come and meet us. Now, they can walk out an advertising way is if you want to let people know that we're safe and the community is ready to welcome them, in your ads, you will put that staying at certain hotels is only 5 minutes walk to a very famous restaurant in that area, which subconsciously tells our guests you can leave the hotel and you can walk something local. That's where we are today. But there's always challenges as you grow, and these are the things, short term, we have to start managing and look at. I see the Minister of Health shaking her head. She's very aware of the input of tourism. It is also extremely important that we have the health facilities here when we have visitors that know they can be taken care of if, God forbid, they have some type of emergency. Now, Mr. Speaker, that outline goes, as was said yesterday, to the trickle-down effect that sometimes we don't really notice. But think about the air transportation, especially on Cayman Airways. Caymanian pilots, Caymanian flight attendants, Caymanian CEO, Caymanian CFO, Caymanian through the office. I would venture to say there's no other small national airline that is run from top to bottom by the people of the country. Hats off to Cayman Airways and what they are able to do with our Caymanian people and labor. Mr. Speaker, I carry that on to another subject that the minister has responsibility for, and that's the Airport Authority and the air traffic controllers that we feel safe as we fly in, knowing that we have not only, as we went to that gateway in Miami, felt like we were home because we saw, I see some BRCAs there, but we see Caymanians there, and we feel we've already arrived home. And we know that when we are landing, a Caymanian air traffic controller, along with a Caymanian pilot, is going to land us. That's what an industry is about, is to train and upskill the people to take advantage of it. Taxis. You want to meet a real Caymanian, go for a couple taxi rides in a day. Not just one, 2 or 3. Fantastic personalities, really ambassadors for the country. Tour buses, rental cars, coordinators, drivers, and the important part, most of these are owned by Caymanians. This has given them opportunity. This is why we have to grab this industry and continue moving it forward. And we have Caymanian hotel owners. We have staff, concierge, management that welcome not as many as we would like, but that's one of the challenges to move forward, to bring more people into the industry. Mr. Speaker, I want to just briefly talk about the Airbnb, the friends and family. Airbnb brought us back to where we were 20 years ago. When you talk to people who come, and we are all creatures of habit. You shop every Saturday at the same time. You vacation every year at the same time if you enjoyed it the last year. When you stay at an Airbnb owned by a Caymanian family that interacts with you on a daily basis, you not only come back the next year, but you're calling them and you're finding out when their birthday is, and you're sending them text messages, and you're checking up on the weather. And that builds our tourism community. Opportunities for Caymanians. And the other big opportunity right now, Mr. Speaker, local restaurants. Doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. People are going to ask you, where can I get local food? And we ask that too. Where are we going for lunch? Very, very local cuisine. Very important from the standpoint of what we have available. How many people you think work at the Turtle Center? How many people work in the activities that people enjoy? Those are all, as we say, trickle-down effect of tourism. Sure, friends and family use these activities. The financial industry, as they come and their clients come, use this. But the majority of this is pushed forward by tourism. Shops with local souvenirs. Go to the craft market. All of these have to be enjoyed because of the importance of trickle-down and must be acknowledged, and worked on. And I say worked on. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's a standard that is expected when you vacation in the Cayman Islands. What is our obligation as a government, as a ministry? Training, where you can hold your head high and know that People can answer questions, they can give you guidance, they can give you comfort that what they tell you, you can depend on. I was very happy and very pleased to hear the initiative yesterday that the minister brought forward about financing. One of the most important things to get into the industry is the financing that was outlined, that was going to be available. But going along with that, I will ask the minister and the government to be sure to tag on the mentoring part of it. It's one thing to give you $50,000, but don't let them go out the door without telling them how you're going to help them get involved with all the different things of how to manage it and be successful. You know that Mr. Hugh started that in his last term as minister with the small business, and I believe the deputy premier has continued it. Same one? Good one to follow. Education. I didn't hear anything about the scholarships, UCCI, Hospitality School, relationship with Johnson & Wales, the overseas. There is a lot of scholarship money available through tourism and through the Ministry of Education. We want our young people to take advantage of that. They have the ability to go to some of the best schools, not in the region, not in the United States, but in the world. Acknowledge that, oh, you went to that hospitality school? Get a job wherever they want. We want them to come home. And Mr. Speaker, the final one, there could be a lot on this provide list, but the one that I thought was most interesting was yesterday when the new Minister for Sustainability brought up about the Stingray City and the enforcement. It was acknowledged that she would be looking into it, and I think the industry itself would be very thankful for that. But Mr. Speaker, on December 8th, 2019, in this Parliament, it was stated by the Environmental Minister, Dwayne Seymour, the Department of Environment will not be issuing any new licenses for Stingray City. This came as the Environmental Minister, Dwayne Seymour, announced a temporary moratorium on licenses Thursday evening in the Legislative Assembly. I don't know how he did that, Minister. But I heard you yesterday acknowledge that you were going to deal with it and acknowledge that there was some legislation. I'm not sure if you did that without legislation or whether you looked at, but I think the point is that it needs to stop. And before we take a while, you are very popular with North Sound tourism boat operators. Very kind words that was in the newspaper about them depending and acknowledging your interest in it. North Sound are the bread and butter of the industry. They talk about, want to meet Caymanians? You want to find conchs? Get a North Sound boat trip. Very important to our industry, and I was really glad to hear how you acknowledged it yesterday. I'm sure the minister was, of what you're going to do and how it's going to be looked into, and I'm sure it'll transfer through the different operators in that area. Now, Mr. Speaker, how do we grow our tourism industry from this 2019 number?
Honourable Member, sorry to interrupt you, but the recording is not picking you up because you're too far away from your mic.
That better?
Yes, or you need to speak up. One of the two. Yeah.
I can do both. How do you make it easier? Because what we want to do is grow more tourism arrivals. You look at people and how they're going to travel and book their tourism vacation, and you make it easy for them. You underpromise and you overdeliver. You look at the centers of wealth that you can service and that you can find, the high net worth individual and families, are the families who have a spendable income in that area that can afford to enjoy our country. So use your gateway cities. It's easier for you. We're an island, so you're going to fly here for purposes of these numbers for arrivals. So you're going to fly here. So you want to make it easy for you to get on the plane and get here. You look for your direct flights into Cayman, and yes, direct from Miami into Cayman Brac. You know friendly people will be meeting you, and you will be meeting them. As you arrive here, you make sure that there's an easy transit through the arrival system, the airport, the border control, the baggage handlers. And then as you get outside, the taxis and the tour buses that welcome you, and is probably one of the first two experiences that you're going to interact with a local person. The accommodations should have easy check-ins, good service, state-of-the-art IT if they do it online. And the activities that are not only available in the hotel area, but the activities that are available surrounding, that's the trickle-down. That's the one that we make it easy, as we talked about before. Easy to get a taxi, easy to get a tour, easy to get there. Walk if you'd like. Make it easy. And also, it gives them the opportunity to meet the local people. And departures are the reverse of that. Same thing. Uneventful, safe, easy check-in, easy boarding, easy flight home. Now, I said all of those things because when all of those add up, here's what happens. Return guests. Return guests. We are one of the destinations with the highest rate of return guests. So what that means is, the next time they come to Cayman, it doesn't cost you a penny to get them here. They're not looking for that ad in the Wall Street. They're not looking for the ad in the New York Times. They're not looking for Travel and Leisure. Because they're repeat guests, they're creatures of habit, they're coming back, stay the same place, same time next year. Continue our push to build repeat guests. I thought you were coming to tell me I need to be closer to this microphone. Mr. Speaker, tourism businesses have expenses. And the tourism expenses for that business are 12 months out of the year. They're not high season. They struggle through low season. Simply put, we look at it and we say there are peaks and there are valleys. The only thing you can do in a peak is increase the price of your room to be more successful and make sure it balances that you don't lose business from it. But the valleys, that's where we can really capitalize, Mr. Speaker. That is the one that when it's announced you have more numbers than 2019, it's because you've driven up the valleys and brought them up close to the peaks and increased the numbers. May, August, September, October, part of November. Most people look at that and say the months. Tourism looks at it and sees opportunity. Incentive travel. Small conferences for the buildings and infrastructure we have here. weddings, sporting events, cultural events, and the success for that can happen in a 12 or 18-month period, and the industry, because of what we're going to face, needs that type of short-term planning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I feel comfortable. Opposition is obviously supportive of a tourism initiative and moving forward to continue to build our tourism industry. Our arrivals, stayover arrivals, as has been said by the president of CITA and by the minister and his team, will continue to be reported, and we are very optimistic that they will continue to be successful. Mr. Speaker, cruise arrivals, boy, what a difference a couple years makes. Man. Cruise arrivals are projected to fall approximately from 1.3 million this year, 2023, to 750,000 in 2024. No? That's what is on Google. As Minister Seymour would say, I was a Googleist to find out that information. The concern from speaking to industry partners who depend on cruise passengers. These people depend 12 months out of the year on the business they get from cruise passengers. Turtle Center, tour and taxi transport. Georgie, the coconut man, depends on that 12 months out of the year. That is personal, people-centric, to look at one individual that you see every day and want him to be successful working in the industry. Souvenir shops, water sports, the North Sound boat operators, and the Stingray City operators. What is the plan to help them repurpose their investment and withstand nearly a 40% reduction in their business next year? This is people-centered. This approach is a short-term review and policy. And each one of us, as we walk around, whether it be North Sound boat operators or Georgetown operators, you get asked the question, what are we going to do next year when our business is down 40% and the valleys are huge? And I want to also mention, Mr. Speaker, less cruise means a reduction in the Port Authority revenues. I'm going to say it again. Less cruise arrivals means a reduction in the Port Authority revenues. Think about if you were looking at a business and you were looking for your return and you had the opportunity to use your physical plant 24 hours a day. That's what the Port Authority has the opportunity to do. They do cargo at night and cruise in the day. So as the cruise slows down in the day, it means that you'll have less opportunity to use your infrastructure, your physical plant, during the day. An opportunity that decreases your revenue. And when the revenue is decreased, Mr. Speaker, there's only one way that they're going to be able to get another revenue stream or to get the revenue back. They're going to have to increase the fees of the cargo coming over the dock. That's a cost of living increase because it's going to be transferred to each individual as they purchase the goods. Mr. Speaker, we have to think about this in the short term. We have to look for solutions. And it's going to be something that needs to be reviewed. Yesterday, there was a discussion about cruise piers. There was discussion about looking at it and finding what the Caymanian people wanted. I think that what the minister is going to find from his report that he gets in, with the new ships coming online, there's not a choice as far as being able to continue to use the piers that are there now. There has to be improvements, and there has to be a way that those improvements will be paid for. We look at it, and we wanted to retool and review what were the opportunities from smaller cruise ships with higher net worth individuals that traded in this area in the slow months. Imagine if the improvement, which has to be because of how the new ships come online, when the improvement is done, if during the day that smaller cruise vessels could actually use the new pier that is looked at. And I think that if you do the business model on that and you see the revenue against what the expense would be, it'd be a very interesting short-term decision that will be faced. We as opposition members would be very happy to be involved. As the minister's style, he invites you to look at these things. So I think that I can speak for all of us on this side. We'd be very happy to review that opportunity for the country. And it moves us to the conversation about talking to the lines about the smaller vessels and what is really available. How do we strengthen our industry partners to withstand this challenge that we're going to have as we reduce the number of arrivals? Number one, reduce red tape. Reduce red tape. Talk to the one or two fellow mom and pop operators and get them to explain to you what they have to do and where they can get help. That all, as we talked about earlier, mentors, the help with the ability to do business in an easier way. Trade and business, fees that, licensing fees, scheduling. I can tell you, as the minister responsible 2.5 years ago, when they have to find the money all one time to pay some of their fees, it's difficult. That again goes back to the loans available and the mentoring of how you prepare yourself to have success. Also, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that we are excited about is the Synico expansion. And one of the opportunities is in the tourism industry. Because as they work for themselves and in their business, they come to a certain point and their insurance stops. So it falls on government then, if they're indigent, or it falls on themselves to have insurance in the vulnerable years of their life. If we could investigate what Synico would offer for a block, and the block would be thousands of people that are involved in the tourism industry. And most of them right now, most of them are involved with a private insurance company. The opportunity for a Cineco manager to sit down and get that block of young, healthy individuals on board from a business standpoint is an opportunity. From a health standpoint and living standpoint, doing business in the Cayman Islands and protecting our people with people-centered initiatives is very important to the tourism industry. I leave it with the Minister today, Mr. Speaker. Special mentoring and business assistance with loans. The explanation for this was already given, and I don't think I have to drill down more into this, but I compared it to the G.G. Ham program of how government helped. And again, we go back to some people don't need a mentor. Some people don't need. You know why? Because they have family members and they're generational. And their family members are showing them how they did it and what they think they could do. But we have new young Caymanians entering in the business that need this direction and help. And then already mentioned the marketing program of small business and just explaining to them how they get their name on a cruise ship, how they get their name on an airline, how they get their name. Simple. But you're available and they get to look at it. And it was also mentioned earlier to look at the slow months, small and medium-sized cruise lines and cruise ships that put more vessels here in that August, September, October time frame, because again, each one of those businesses have bills that come in 12 months out of the year, not in the high season, 8, 9 months. Mr. Speaker, I think we could discuss more, but I believe that our outline today was talking about medium term, long term, but centering on the short term because of some of the immediate impacts we're going to have in the industry that we must, in the same way we had to do stipends at a certain time because of COVID, we must understand how to get our partners, our Caymanian business people, through the next slowdown, especially from cruise. How to retool them, re-engage them, and look at new opportunities that they can be involved in. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move now and focus on my constituency, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. But we can talk about tourism a little bit as well. I would like to start off by thanking my constituents for the honor of representing them for the last 19 years. They've given me the opportunity to sit in this seat, over there as well, in a seat that's their seat, not my seat, their seat, but they allowed me to sit in it to consider their business, the country's business. I will always be grateful for that honor. Mr. Speaker, I want to publicly state that the budget that has been brought by the Premier for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman is a good budget. It continues what we, as the two representatives for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, have done over the years. She's been there a few more years than I, but the years that we worked together, if I came and found something that she had started, I continued it. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. It was a good thing for our people. It was already started. It was cost effective. We continue that way. I am extremely happy, which I'll get to a little bit later, to support a new school in Cayman Brac. But Mr. Speaker, in explaining what we have is important because the phone calls I'm getting are, is that going to be covered? And I started off this way because I want to make sure people understand all the things that they're worried about are going to be covered. 2024 DAL2 is $11,630,000. 2025 DAL2 is $12 million. Mr. Speaker, those two amounts are the amounts that handle salaries at district admin. That's the nucleus of where all things are managed and come out for district admin in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So there's not a worry. It's same as it was protected in the last budget and the budget before and the budget before. It's protected again. Mr. Speaker, we all know that a large percentage of the population in the Sister Islands work for government. So that's why it's so important to outline publicly, as they listen, of what is going to be in the new budget. Mr. Speaker, this is the appropriations financial bill. I'm going to quote from this. On page 11, Mr. Speaker, it starts, and I've just outlined the government services that are in the appropriation amount. Sister Island Affordable Home Program, $75,000 in both years. It's a management. One very important program, $600,000 for the home repair program. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman have a home repair program that I believe works extremely well and is very important to indigent and elderly that need safe, dry, clean housing. And it gives them, and it continues to give them, the pride of living in their own home. We also have what Minister Seymour calls the NICE program. We call it the cleanup program. And there's $700,000 in each of the years to continue to drive that forward. And I believe that each one of us that have visited are very appreciative to the people who work in that program, because it's pure ambition to go in the sun for 7-8 hours a day to make your island look so much better. Sister Islands community programs and projects, community, culture, $150,000 each year. Mr. Speaker, Sister Islands Affordable Homes. There are 7 applications to Development Control Board for homes to start. The Affordable Housing Corporation in the BRAC has the funds, and we know that as quickly as it can get started, it's needed. Land purchase, not identified, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, or Grand Cayman, but it's in the district admin budget, and we know that a lot of the opportunity to look for land for next generations are being protected and looked at, 3 million in each year. The miscellaneous road surfaces, 100,000 for the 2024. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman roads, 1 million in each year. Sports complex expansion, 150 in 2024 and 300 in 2025. Cemetery vaults, 50,000 in each year. Improvement to multi-purpose hall, 100,000 in each year. Deep wells, drain wells, 21,000 in each year. Docks and ramps for Sister Islands, 500,000 2024, 200,000 2025. Public restrooms, Sister Islands, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, 200,000 and 100,000. Very exciting, 100,000 for a play field in Little Cayman, and 300,000 for public parks improvements. Mr. Speaker, that is the outline that's in this appropriation part, but that's not all. The budget also reflects funding for the construction of a new high school on Cayman Brac. And Mr. Speaker, I want to publicly say it can only be considered a wise use of capital for the people of this country to build schools and to build sports complexes. That's as simple as I can put the thought and the support for the initiative of schools. Cadet Corps, very important and very successful on the BRAC. I would lobby and ask for more support from the Coast Guard, the regiment. We have a lot of miles of unprotected border, and it would be nice. I don't know if there's plans. We hear to put a Coast Guard vessel in the BRAC or Little Cayman. I would just leave it that it's unprotected and it's certainly needed. And I would encourage Coast Guard for both reasons: safety of lives at sea and protection. Fire service. Mr. Speaker, we have a Cat 7 fire service rating in Cayman Brac. That means that it's able to accept the Cal Max 8's landing. And we are extremely proud of the BRAC service and Little Cayman service. We're also very proud of the new recruits, approximately 10 that are coming back to the BRAC and Little Cayman. I would also at this time ask the minister responsible and the management of the fire service to consider, I was told it was a budget issue, the reimbursement for the housing, food, and travel expenses of our new recruits. Because as they came in for training for months, and they had to continue to take care of their family in Cayman Brac, they were not compensated, and they had to borrow money and get help from friends and family to pay their rent, to get transportation, and to get food in Cayman. I don't think it's unreasonable that they would be compensated for their training because they're already members of the fire service. Also, which this I'm told is looking for, is in the budget, and that's a new truck for Little Cayman. You know, what I'm so happy and proud that has changed in the way of procurement for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. It used to be, whether it was an ambulance, fire truck, a public works truck, whatever the vehicle was, it was purchased new for Grand Cayman. And after they used it for a little while, they would send it to Cayman Brac. And then when Cayman Brac used it, they'd send it to Little Cayman. And that's backwards, because there's better facilities to maintain equipment here in Cayman. So now, procurement policy, new goes to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. The Water Authority continues to work extremely hard in the Brac, very successful program, moving to the east and driving to get to Spot Bay. Faith Hospital works from strength to strength. They continue to grow. They continue to offer more services. They continue to bring more expertise. The hospital offers security and comfort to not only young, elderly, but all that know that that facility is available. Not only available, it's a Cineco facility where that card works there, and it is what I'm very proud of, that we have that type of hospital and that type of care, along with the community care center for the elderly on Cayman Brac. Mr. Speaker, Cineco has an office on the Brac. I can only say good things about it. It allows people to go in and discuss and talk. But they desperately need to review how they pay their medical helpers and how that is, they're paid in arrears. So if you get somebody to help you or your family member, you have to pay them first. And then you put in that bill, and about 2 to 4 weeks later, you get reimbursed for that month. So you're basically operating 6 to 8 weeks in arrears for these helpers that are needed. It is something that family members and individuals that are needing this help come to my MP office at least once a week to talk about. And I encourage Cineco to review that and see how that can be corrected. It doesn't seem like a big issue, but it's a big issue if you need help and you're not able to pay for it. I would like to congratulate Cayman Bracker, Mr. Garston Grant, on a new office complex. It's fully rented, right by the airport. It's a yellow color. You can't miss it. But the courage of a Cayman Bracker, around 80 years old, to build that because he had confidence in the future of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Hats off to him. I'm extremely pleased that he did that, but the other ones that look and say, if he could do that, I can do it too. You can see that kind of can-do attitude and hear it with some of the younger ones looking at opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the sports programs continue to move from strength to strength. They have been working. There was a little hold-up with some Cal flights on a Saturday. That's been sorted. They create lifelong memories because the BRAC teams come to Cayman to play. Cayman teams come to the BRAC, exchange each other names, friendships, and it continues to work in a very balanced and good way. I want to spend a couple minutes on the police. We always say in Cayman Brac, for success to happen in Cayman Brac, we need proper air transportation and safety. I welcome Cayman Bracker Kurt Walton as the new commissioner. He knows the run-in, as they would say, about everything in Cayman Bracker and Little Cayman. And we are very proud of him. And we're grateful for the police service, and we commend them for their dedication protecting us. However, with an increase in burglaries, 2 unsolved deaths, it would seem there is a shortage of police officers for patrolling, investigating our communities. I can tell you that private individuals have hired security center to patrol at night in their own car. Security center has names all over it. It seems like the community needs more police as we grow, especially. We need access to CCTV to solve some of these break-ins. We had a police meeting in Cayman Brac. Premier and myself attended. There were questions, and our comment was this: we are not professional police, but any time that there has come a request for funds, these 2 representatives, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, have always voted to fund the police in what they needed for the 2 islands. And Commissioner, it was before Commissioner Walton took over, the Commissioner acknowledged that we had support. He'd always get support from us. And we said, there's a standard that we need. What we can do is vote the funds to help you get it. We're not police. And that's the position I believe that we must take as legislators and members of this House to make sure they have the tools they need. But then, as we've discussed, we must have the results. Mr. Speaker, I want to move in to what is needed and what is planned. And this is a very exciting time in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. What is needed as we address cost of living, inflation, opportunity is a review of cost of living issues. The population of the sister islands equates to 3.2% of the Cayman Islands population. A recent consumer price index for March 2023 showed a further increase of 6.6% inflation compared to March of 2022. Trend is expected to continue. Groceries, utilities, gasolines increased in the United States by over 20%. The Cayman Islands, about 25%. Cost of living crisis has dramatically increased the financial burden on families and small business owners. In large part, due to the increase of bank loans, property insurance, health insurance, etc. Mr. Speaker, businesses in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman are predominantly micro or small, have been especially hit hard by increase given their limited customer base. Micro businesses, as defined by the Trade and Business License Act, had license fees waived until 2023. And I have no doubt the new government will waive them again for future years. But in general, Mr. Speaker, the costs of business fees and licenses are not proportionate to the size of businesses when compared to Grand Cayman. I ask that the government review and consider reducing import duties and licensing fees for the residents and small businesses, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that that could actually be done by a cabinet directive rather than have to have a legislative change, but I'm not sure. Yeah, see, Minister D.P. raised, shaking his head in the right way. Mr. Speaker, Little Cayman continues to have expanded government services provided in this budget. We've gone through numbers. Planning has approved new homes and condominium projects, which indicates small percentage growth in Little Cayman. But as I look at Cayman Brac and look at two overarching projects with the new high school, sports housing block, that's a public sector project, over $30 million. And a private sector project, Zeus Marina, by well-known IT, Mr. Frank Schilling, which he has told me is basically approved subject to receiving their coastal works license and after the environmental impact assessment is completed. These projects will truly be an opportunity for a sustainable sister islands, one to educate and one to provide industry. Think about what I just said. One that provides the education that you need in a new building, new infrastructure, answered, then industry that provides new jobs and more diversification of the job market in Cayman Brac, all happening at the same time. Yeah. Thank the Lord, rain is a blessing. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this was on the agenda for the Conservation Council meeting last week. I haven't heard what input it was, but I was again told that they were just waiting for the terms of reference for the environmental impact assessment. The owner-developer has probably spent $1.5 to $1.7 million with engineers and expertise of what needs to be done. And he's also done what is the right way to do development. He's bought all the land that he needs. And he's bought more land than he needs because he knows he's going to appreciate all the land around him. So, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to go show how private-public parallel investment benefits sustainability for Cayman Brac, but for the country as well. But we are thrilled. I am, this representative. I will say my colleague is thrilled as well to see, and she can certainly speak for herself, the Premier has given a nod that these types of opportunities for the people of Cayman Brac is what is so important for us to work on and continue green lighting this type of investment and this type of future for younger people in Cayman Brac. Mr. Speaker, for these two to be successful, I'm glad the minister came back, for these two to be successful, we must depend on Cayman Airways. And as last year, when we talked about a third Twin Otter, the minister championed the cause. Right there in that committee room. The minister said, let me look into it. Mr. Speaker, the Twin Otter isn't here yet, but it's coming. And today, I want to finish up my contribution talking a little bit about the need, because we've come a long way, Mr. Speaker, and these two projects, along with all of the other ones, supported by proper transportation, turns us into sustainability. Mr. Speaker, presently, the island are served by 2 twin otters, which cannot meet the weekend demands, and when they have to go on their annual safety checks abroad, it only leaves 1 twin otter to service the route. Cayman Brac is served by 2 Saabs. Each of them are booked at 30 seats. They were purchased because frequency was what was needed for a milk run in the community. And what that means is that you have 4 flights a day. You can get to the doctor in the morning and you can go home in the evening for specialty care. You can do your work that you need to do in Grand Cayman and get home without having to spend $300-400 on a hotel room. So it's a quality of life issue. But we have outgrown the 2 Saabs. They're not large enough now to meet the demand, especially on weekends. And we have to backfill with the MAX 8s, 160 seats, to catch up and plan events on the weekends. And Mr. Speaker, again, when the Saabs have to go off abroad, we're left with only 1 Saab. So we're then left vulnerable to breakdowns. And I will say that I travel between Cayman Brac and Grand Cayman quite a bit. And we have had more breakdowns and more unreliable experiences than is customary for Cayman Airways. We have been told that the number 1 issue is when there's no backup to support it, because you only have 1 flight with no redundancy, 1 plane. Now, Mr. Speaker, that's understandable when you can't use a Saab in Little Cayman. There's only 1 type of aircraft that can go into Little Cayman. So Cayman Airways is forced to have 5 planes to service Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Nothing can happen. This is like building a house without a front door. Nothing can happen unless we get the proper air service. Mr. Speaker, today we've talked about solutions and short-term. The outlined projects are starting. This is the money in place for them to start. The will is with the ministry, the government, ministers responsible. We come today, and the minister and I have chatted, and again I go back to, not only did we chat, but he picked up the phone and he brought his expertise and had a good talk with management. And one of the things that was talked about, Mr. Speaker, was looking for a different type of aircraft that would service both Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. So the headline on Simple Flying is, wow, ATR 42 can now land on runways just 800 meters long. Problem solved. Can we give this? Mr. Speaker, the minister has just said that he's fully aware, and I think he said he was supportive of how we solve the air transportation problem for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Good point. It has just been said that the problem in Little Cayman is the airport. The problem with that is, I've been saying that for the last 40 years. The biggest plane that lands there is a Twin Otter, and they used to let you take 18 people on it. Now they're cut down to only 14 because you got to take bags, and those are the regulations. So it's a willing group that knows and sees the problem, and I bring it up in the discussions we've had, is we need to solve the problem. This is a short-term problem. This is not a medium or long. I commit that however I can help, I'm willing to be involved and try to help from the standpoint, you get support from opposition, without question, but maybe there's some other expertise I could help you with. Mr. Speaker, I just finished what this says. It says, ATR has announced upgrades to the AT-42, which will enable it to land on runways just 800 meters long. The new short takeoff and landing, STOL variant of the AT-42, which will make its way to the airlines in the second half of 2022, will feature a number of physical modifications. So instead of 5 airplanes, we would now need 2 or 3. That would continue to give frequency. I didn't do anything. Oh, the fire?
Members, I will suspend proceedings. We should all proceed through the front door.